All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Intentional Iron Podcast. Today, I am joined by my good friend Chris Pantano. Brother, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man.
Good deal, good deal. Now, I know I usually get in people podcasts kind of start with like who's the background, like the background of the person. But besides that, how are you doing? Just how is Chris as a bodybuilder, as a person? Like, how are you just in general, man?
I think Chris, as a person overall, is doing really, really well. I don't get too many complaints. Even if I did, I don't really complain too much because no one really cares at the end of the day.
Fair enough.
Those are some life lessons I've learned early on in life. It's one of those things where it's like, you kind of got to be your own hero at times and save yourself if you're going through anything at all. And that's just kind of like what I'm just used to doing. I mean, obviously, I've got a lot of good people in my corner that I could reach out to and ask for help, like family or my wife or, a couple close friends, but I don't really have any issues and I'm doing really well.
Awesome, good. Yeah, it seems
Life's good. Life's good.
yeah, it seems like every time that you like talk on the podcast, whether they be asking about your prep or anything, you're always just a pretty positive guy. So I really appreciate that. But speaking of prep, how is your prep? I want to dive into that because I know that you are how many weeks out?
20 days out from my first show,
20
25
days.
days out from the big one.
The big one, nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love seeing guys that are able to get on podcasts and be in the quote unquote like the trenches of prep and still be very upbeat like yourself. It's really cool to see. There's a guy I follow called Anson, and he's like one of the most positive dudes I've ever met. And he's like, a couple weeks out. So seeing that and that kind of beating, or I know like most people from the outside look unlike most people looking like from the outside looking into bodybuilding and think like a bodybuilder in prep 4 weeks out, he's going to be mean and rude and dickheadish. And then seeing you guys be like that is cool. So dive into your prep, how it's been. And one question I did have like specifically about your prep is what has been one focus of you and Jacoby's approach to your prep, if you have one, like a simple focus. Okay.
Focus for me with pretty much every prep that I've ever done has always been just like locking in the conditioning. That was something that I always kind of struggled with early on in my career. It wasn't for like lack of effort or me slacking off or skipping cardio or cheating on my diet. I never did that. It always became a challenge because I do have a blood condition called beta thalassemia intermedia, and it causes a whole fucking mess of shit. And I was born with it. It's a genetic thing. My dad has a slightly mild version of it. My grandfather had an even milder version of it. Mine was the most intense one. And what I'll say about that is it's a red blood cell kind of like anomaly. So my red blood cells are very small and they're irregular shape. They almost look like weird like squares. They're not like circles. And with that, because they die very quickly, and it also causes my hemoglobin to be very low. So my hemoglobin has been as low as 8 before, which was 1 point away from needing like blood transfusions.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And with that too, it causes a bunch of other issues. Like it can cause serotonin and dopamine issues, which can lead to depression. It can cause it can cause infertility, which is something I was gifted with, which was unfortunate. Yeah. And it also can cause like low vitamin D levels. It causes low testosterone levels, and it's like a blessing and a curse because it's more like a Mediterranean like defense. So a lot of people that are like Greek and Italian can have this, and it makes us immune to like bloodborne illnesses and viruses like West Nile, Triple E, malaria, all that stuff, which is pretty cool. And then, I've had tests done in the hospital because there was some things that came up that were kind of weird. I actually produce 2 times nitric oxide than a normal human, which I think is why my blood pressure is always very low. And I also have 2 times EPO output, which is erythropoietin, which is what actually creates blood cells, which is needed because my blood cells die fast.
Right.
But so it's like when I'm in the off season, it's great because I like get the craziest pumps. I do recover really, really well. But in prep, it's tough because fatigue builds up very, very quickly on me. I've created a really aggressive supplement regimen. And the last time I actually had blood work done was the first time ever in my life my hemoglobin was normal. So I feel almost superhuman all the time because I've always only known what it's like to be low hemoglobin. Even when I would be, even if you're on PEDs, which usually raises hemoglobin hematocrit, mine would go as high as 11, which is still low.
Wow, that's crazy.
And then it starts to tank when calories are low.
Right.
and cardio is being pushed. But we've kind of fixed that. And I've read hundreds and hundreds of studies, because it's not like you can look up like bodybuilding and beta thalassemia. So
Yeah, you're like an anomaly in that. Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, a little background. Like I do have my degree in dietetics with medical nutrition therapy and clinical nutrition. Worked in a
Awesome.
hospital as a dietitian before. I also have a second bachelor's degree in biochemistry, so I'm a little bit of a science nerd, and I know
Right.
how to read studies. So I've read hundreds of studies, and I'd be like, beta thalassemia and protein absorption, beta thalassemia and fat absorption, carbohydrate metabolism, effects on, hormonal output, T3, T4, all that stuff. So I've kind of just pieced through a bunch of things and just sort of figured out like, hey, what's going on with this? And it seems to be
Yeah.
working really, really well.
That's awesome.
And I think this is one of the major reasons why this prep has been going so well. I've had a handful of days where I've been, tired and felt like I've been hit like a truck. But
Yeah.
I mean, I'm less than 3 weeks out from my first show. Around this time, around 3 weeks out from my last show, I mean, my last prep, I was a walking zombie. I was tired all the time, super fatigued, like legs felt like they were just growing roots in the ground as I was walking.
Right. Yeah.
And that's not the case this prep.
Good.
Which has been really good. And I also think too, just staying a little bit leaner in the off season and doing some mini cuts that we did aggressive mini cut for my long off season last year put me in a really good spot, because the weight's been coming off pretty easy. I really can't complain. I'm doing way less cardio than I've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten high days pretty much every week. I'm actually on a high day today because I hit a massive new low.
I saw that. Yeah.
Which has been great. So I definitely have some energy today. I mean, most of prep for the majority of prep, I think up until maybe 6 or 7 weeks out, I'd get 2 high days back to back with cheat meals. There was one point, Jacoby ended up actually having to increase my carbs on the high day, because I got to the point where I was doing like one high day and I'd wouldn't gain any weight. So, we'd fill up and everything. So that's been going really well. Haven't really changed anything different from previous preps. I think the biggest thing is just, food choices are the same. They just vary amounts. Supplements are the same shit that I've always done, just, maybe slightly different amounts. Some things higher, some things lower.
Right.
But like cardio is a lot lower than it's ever been, which is great. And I'm definitely going to bring my best look to the stage this year that I've ever done. So yeah,
That's a goal. That's always a goal.
yeah. I mean,
That's awesome.
obviously everyone wants to win when they do their shows.
Right. Yeah.
But I got to be honest, I don't give a shit about the actual show. Like that's been my mindset all prep, because in the past I'd be like, every day I'd wake up, I'd do my cardio or whatever. Like when I'd start
All
to
you can
get
think
fatigued,
about.
all I'd be thinking
Yeah.
about is like them calling my name and first call out and moving me to the middle, and I'm just hitting
Yeah.
my poses. I don't think about that at all.
Mm-hmm.
I am not giving a shit about the show. I don't care who the hell shows up to the show. And by doing so, I think I've always put an ungodly amount of pressure on myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't done that to myself this year. So what I focus on is just the day to day. It's my mobility work, my cardio, my sleep, my diet, the training.
Mm-hmm.
And then just controlling all those variables that I control. But that's where I've been putting all my energy in. And
Yeah.
it's
I
kind of
love that
funny. Like
mindset.
there's been multiple times where I'll wake up in the morning and I'll wake up and I'll look at my wife and I'll be like, I'll do like a fake stretch like this. I'll be like, yeah, today's a great day for last call outs. Like I've been just joking about that. And that way I've got zero expectations. Because I feel like whenever I put expectations on anything in my life, I somehow manage to fuck it up or get screwed over or whatever. So I'm just having fun.
Good. When you set those expectations, it starts setting things that are like outside of that circle of things that you have control of. And that's like what drives all anxiety in life, is when you think of things like in the future or whatever that you don't have like direct control over. You can't control what that panel is going to say. You can't control who is going to show up. What does looking at like I look back on, I just remembered this. Oh my God. I forgot my first show. I was looking at like the tagged people, like the people that would tag the show's like Instagram page, and I would be like, who's competing? It's like, what is that doing for you in your day-to-day process? What is that doing to get you to your best look? It's doing nothing. So why should you care? I think that having that perspective, like you're saying, of just like, I'm just gonna master like my process, control what I can control, and where it lands is where it lands. And if you know you're bringing your best package, you've basically already won. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And, there are some people that There are some people that, I'm sure that they look at the people that are competing against them, like that might be in the same class, and they'll
Hmm.
use that as fuel. They'll be like, oh yeah, like they might even be friends, but like deep down they might be like, fuck this guy, like I'm gonna
Hmm.
outwork this dude, like no one's gonna outwork me and whatever. And I used to do that in the past. I'd be like, oh, I can't wait to stand on stage next to this guy.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, it's like when you're up there on stage and the judges are looking at you, and this is the sad truth about bodybuilding here. You could work hard, you could work like 10 times harder than every other person on that stage, and you'll still get your ass kicked because you've
Yeah.
got some genetic anomaly that gets lean super easy and can eat tons of food and just get shredded, and then they just show up and win. You know what I
Just got
mean?
it. Yeah.
And on top of that too, it's like bodybuilding shows are almost like showing livestock, like how they show off like cows or horses and stuff. That's
Yeah.
basically what bodybuilding is kind of like to me. And
Basically. Yeah.
you're not. It's not like you're playing football and you're studying film
Yeah.
and you're like, okay, like I'm gonna fucking lay out this running back when he gets the handoff or a pitch, whatever like that. It's like there's no like head to head physical anything with competitors on stage.
Yeah.
It's not like if I pose and squeeze harder on stage, it's gonna get me a better placing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Squeeze your glutes a little harder. Like, yeah. Put that guy in the middle.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that guy's really
Yeah.
squeezing his calves. I
Yeah.
squeeze my calves harder than anyone else. That's why I won. Like, no,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
not that's
That's
not how it works.
that's such a good point. Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's where people like have to find like if you do come from like a sports background and whatever, that's where you have to pull that love for that sort of thing and put in like the training or like this is the way you carry yourself. I think that the way that you carry yourself is a way that you can like be competitive in your mind. Like there was a podcast that I was listening to with like Roman Fritz and Fuad from like years ago, and he was just like, I was just perfect when the other guys weren't, and that's like a competitive like nature aspect that you could bring in. But that there's just none of that on stage. It's just like it's just posing at that point.
Yeah.
You could outpose them as far as like maybe the way you hit the pose or whatever, but like as far as like a physical thing like football or nothing like that, it doesn't matter. So I do like all the guys that I listen to that are having the kind of hitting on your prep and how you approach things is every successful guy that I'm seeing like have successful preps that are going good. They all have like the reoccurring themes of like staying leaner in the off season, not getting like super fat or whatever. And I do think there's value in that for certain individuals at certain times, certain
Mhm.
cases or whatever. And then the perspective thing of just like I'm just gonna nail my variables, be it mobility, posing, stretching, yada yada yada. And then where the cards lay, and like I already kind of hit on, just being able to control what is in your reach is just the best. But speaking of prep, and I wanted to hit on your time with Jacoby. I know you've talked about him quite a bit. I know a couple other
Hey,
guys on
hey,
your
quiet. Sorry,
you're good. A couple of the guys on like the Talking Mess podcast, I think at least one is also coached by Jacoby, right? Who is it?
Mike, on our podcast, like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Talking
yeah,
Mess.
yeah. It's Mike. Yeah,
Mike
Mike
Condell's been
Connell.
coached by him for a little bit. Yeah.
And then that's right. So how has your time with Jacoby been? Like just for however long you've been with him.
So I'll tell you this, right? I've known Justin actually for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
I'd consider him a friend, even before he was coaching me.
Yeah.
And, I took a long hiatus from competing because I was focusing on like job and financial stuff. And at the time, I didn't know if I wanted to compete again. I never really had like the best significant others in my life where it made prep super easy. It's always been like stressful. And it's just like, I don't want to fucking deal with that anymore. But then
Yeah.
I met, obviously I met my wife, and she's like, you really should compete again. She's an IFBB pro. And 2021, I actually started prep for a show, and I ended up falling down my stairs and I blew out my PCL ligament.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I had those like, like I had in the apartment where you live in, and like those stairs that like come out of the wall, like they're kind of floating.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I ended up like slipping on the carpet, and I like went to grab the railing, and like my body turned, and when I fell,
Mm.
my left leg slid in between the stairs. So like if this is like my knee joint, like this is what my
Yeah.
leg did. And it was just like all my weight
Jeez.
just fell, and all I heard was just pop, pop, pop. And I ended up completely rupturing my PCL ligament in my left knee. It was a grade 1 MCL tear and a grade 2 LCL tear. But luckily, the LCL and MCL healed on their own. The PCL I never got repaired because it's kind of a high risk surgery. So I didn't compete in 2021 because of that. But then 2022, I got back on stage and I self coached myself, and I did nationals in 2023, which I coached myself for. Had a really good look. I was actually very happy with it, and it was cool because Justin would always like send me DMs like, hey man, like you're on the right way, like just keep pushing, keep doing this. Like he always checked in on me. I had a few really good pros that would always send me DMs checking on me, which was really nice. Keon was one of them. I would talk to him like almost daily at some points when I was in prep in the past. And then I remember I did nationals in 2023, and I actually was okay with my placing. I felt like it was very accurate and it was well deserving for me. But I remember just like I remember getting off stage at prejudging, and I'm like, I can coach myself for any local regional show. I'm like, I can't make the judgment calls being so fatigued at this level. So I remember I sent Justin an email, and he's an awesome track record, and I've always had really big, dense muscle. He's a conditioning guy. So I'm like, okay, this is going to be a good fit. So I reached out to him after prejudging. I was like, hey, you taking on any clients? He's like, I'm kind of full right now. I'm like, well, it's me. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. He's like, all right, yeah. He's like, just finish a show. He's like, we'll do a call. I think 2 or 3 days later, we did our intro call and then started work with him. He took over my reverse diet, which was nice. So I had an off season with him in 2024, prep through 2024. He got me my best shape ever. And I've been learning a lot from him as well. And then, we had all of 2025. I took off from competing just because I wanted to grow a little more. Plus, I was planning, my wife and I are planning our wedding, so I didn't want to have to do any sort of prep while getting married. I wanted to make it all about her. And then, still working with him now, and he's kind of learning my body, at a pretty good rate, which is great, which is why I think staying with coaches for a while is good, so they can kind of figure out your body. It's very hard sometimes for some coaches to like really nail it 100% the first time. And I think the first prep we did together, he came pretty damn close. But I think it just kind of comes with more time, getting more maturity and everything. And he's been a fantastic coach. He's great. Last prep, I was a little bit of a head case, just kind of like, because he was like, all right, well, we're going to do light heavies. And I hadn't been a light heavy since 2013. So I was just like freaking out about trying to make the weight. Because whenever we had to push so hard, my body would always fall apart. So I was worried about that. So he was actually pretty good at calming me down and, was a fantastic coach. This year, I don't have a care in the world. So it's been going super well. He communicates well, gives good feedback. He's a fucking peaking whiz. Like,
yeah, I could tell.
He's a wizard.
Yeah,
when it comes to that.
Yeah, I've heard like nothing but positive about Jacoby from like athletes, from people on podcasts. Like there was like a bunch of flack on him that for like a couple weeks when he was on like the Unracked podcast, because he was like, I take a week off, and people found that like negative, and I'm like, that's kind of retarded. But I've heard nothing but good with Jacoby, and all of his clients. Like anytime he puts like reshares a client, they all look good. I think that's such a good point you made as well, is like staying loyal to a coach. I think that's kind of like a little bit of a lost art in like the newer bodybuilding age, is like giving your coach time to learn your body. Because like you said, you've been with him since, you said, 2023 or 4?
Yeah, January 2023.
Yep. And he's still learning your body, and it's August of 2026. Like you're always gonna be able to get like new feedback and new like data from like preps and stuff. And if you only give your coach 16 weeks to learn your body, it's like, what are we doing?
I mean, he's had my body pretty much figured out. This year was just really fun, because I'd just be like, I don't know how I'm dropping so fast. I don't know how my energy is so high. He goes, I don't have an answer for you either, man. He's like, well, we'll just roll with it. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where I think just everything's just finally clicking. Maybe I added just enough muscle where, on my frame where, now it's just making things easier, and maybe it'll get easier as time goes on as well. So yeah, I got no complaints. And man, like if you've ever if anyone who's like that has done a show with him where he's at the show, God, like I don't know how this man gives like 110% to like every single person. Like there'll be times where he's like 12 guys competing at one show. Then he's got guys competing in 2 different time zones across the friggin' world. Then he's got another pros competing at pro shows, and he's just like on the ball with everything. Like he doesn't miss, doesn't do anything. It's like, you're at the hotel getting ready to compete. It's like, You eat a meal, an hour later, you're sending pictures, or I'm going right to his room to do in-person check-ins. And he gives you my meal for the next one. Like he doesn't just give you like a plan. And he's like, all right, this is your peak week plan. Like once you get to the down to the nitty gritty, it's like every meal is assessed, like
Yeah.
scale, pictures, how we feeling, whatever, and then it goes there. So he's so hands on, and I got nothing but great things to say about him as a coach and as a friend.
Yeah, whenever you have a coach like that, that can just remove all the stress from like all of your decision making, and it's just because he cares. At the end of the day, he just gives a fuck. And what's cool about him too is that he is doing it himself right now too. Like he just did, what was it, Toronto, and he looked
Yeah,
great. He
Toronto.
looked
Yeah,
great, and he's still like a lot of guys will do a show and like even weeks following or months following, they're still like in a mental rut or just the weeks before. And from what I saw and what I heard, like he was still on the ball with his coaching even while being in prep. So that's
oh,
that's
yeah,
even more.
yeah,
That's even more of a flower in his cap.
yeah. I mean, he leads by example,
Hmm.
and he pushes you hard, which is great. Like any good coach should. Doesn't matter what sport you're playing.
Yeah,
Good coach is going to challenge you and push you. You know,
yeah, for sure.
like I think there was time, I think last prep where, he's like, all right, I feel like we're a little bit behind here. I need you to really dig down. I'm like, okay, say no more. And I just did it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
got you. Yeah,
So it's good to have someone that's just not going to like be like, oh, you're doing so great, man. It's like,
yeah.
hey, no, like we need to push.
Yeah.
So
You gotta have someone that I've always liked a coach that will only give me like a compliments like when they're earned, and not someone that will just like pat you on the ass 24/7, because that's a negative road to go down. But kind of hitting on something you brought up earlier, kind of also relating to your coach and prep and the whole process, is you said you have found like a supplement regimen that has really helped with your blood condition. What does that look like? Like what are like this like what
trying
are
to go.
the
I have like a huge tackle
yeah.
box, so I'm trying to go through everything. Berberine, reduced glutathione, turmeric, curcumin. Vitamin E is one of the ones that's big for me. That's I do like 1,000 IU's of that every day. I've got vitamin D3K2, which I do a very high dose of, at minimum 10,000 IU's of the vitamin D. Sometimes I'll go up to 15 or 20,000 units a day, and my vitamin D levels are always the best they've ever been in the last couple of years. I do quercetin, which is great for like blood and respiratory health. So I take that. I take CoQ10 at a pretty high dose, like 400 milligrams.
Hmm.
I do cyclosomal NAD plus in tablet form. I do NMN. I do selenium. I do methylfolate. I do a really high methyl B complex. That's one that really helps. The folate does as well. The selenium
Yeah.
does as well. Fish oil, additional multivitamin mineral with chelated minerals in there. I do zinc picolinate. I do a really high dose of nattokinase, which is awesome for heart and circulatory
Right.
health.
Yeah. Yeah.
What else do I got? Trying to think all the ones in my thing. Vitamin C, about 2 grams a day. Magnesium glycinate. It's a lot of stuff that people always take. It's just certain doses that I'll go higher on.
Yeah. Just for your scenario. Yeah.
Yeah, but definitely like the B vitamins, the selenium, the methylfolate, the vitamin E, the vitamin D3, K2, and the magnesium. Those ones are like my core components
Got you.
for overall health. And I mean, granted, like my blood work is fantastic. My
That's
blood pressure
awesome.
is very
Yeah.
low.
Yeah.
Alpha lipoic acid, I use that as well.
Yeah.
I use a GDA called Insulode, which is really good. Tudka, NAC,
Mm.
high dose of NAC, 2,400 milligrams of NAC. Tudka, yeah, I think that might be it actually.
That's pretty interesting. I think that's a cool stack. I mean, it's stuff everyone like hears about. It's just like different, like IUs or whatever that you do for your scenario or whatever. But I think that's something that, I mean, most people looking into bodybuilding and people thinking about bodybuilding know that like the health supplements is a part of it, but you don't really know like how much you're gonna like spend and how much that means to like your progress and everything until you get into it. Like the gear, yes, you have to buy the gear. It's not really compared to like that stack of supplements, and cost wise, it's really nothing. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah,
keeping it up like to date and keeping it stocked.
yeah. I mean, PEDs in bodybuilding, I think is the cheapest. The cheapest.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's so funny because like I've only been on like PEDs or whatever for like a year and a half, or whatever. But like looking into like the picture, you think like, oh, I bet it's like so expensive, it's so hard to get. Where it's like your groceries and your supplements are going to cost you like 5 times as much. And just seeing
Yeah.
that is so funny. It's so funny.
I mean, luckily I do have, I've had a supplement sponsor for 10
Hmm.
years,
Hmm.
and I get whatever I need,
Yeah,
which is
that's awesome.
awesome. But even if I didn't have that, I'd still be buying these supplements just because they have a specific delivery system on there that no other company has.
Hmm.
And my blood work reflects how good it is.
Hmm.
So, yeah, it could be more expensive, but the way I look at it is like, I have health insurance, like I would rather spend the money and like, using nutrition and supplements for prevention rather than intervention or something where it's like changing my life and I have to take these things.
Yeah,
Plus like I'd rather do that than spending massive copays or
yeah,
meeting deductibles with insurance. You know what I mean? It's just and
yeah,
not to mention too, it's just like this, in theory, all of this should help when you get older too.
right,
I'm
yeah.
not like super young.
Hmm.
Luckily, like my body's holding up really well. And I actually did one of those tests where they do like the blood and saliva test, and it tells you what your cellular age is.
Oh yeah,
So my cellular age is actually like 12 years younger than my actual age. Like my cellular age came back
fire.
still in my late 20s.
That's
So
awesome. That's all that
which
matters.
yeah, you know what I mean. So I'm like
That's
I'm
awesome.
pretty happy about that, and
Yeah, that's
that
good.
just the health is wealth, man. Like, and when I worked in the hospital, there was one guy in there that was he had a terminal illness, and he was very wealthy, and he was telling me one time he was like, he's like, I always stressed about this, and this in my life. He's like, none of that matters right now as I'm laying in here. It's like the only thing I'm
Yeah,
stressed about is my health. He's like, I wish I took better care of myself when I was,
yeah,
stressing about all the other things.
yeah. That's a
So
good
that's
point.
kind of how I feel about that.
Yeah,
You
it's because
know,
you get one body, man. Like God is giving you one carcass, one temple. It's like treat it, and if you're especially if you're doing bodybuilding, that is probably taking years off your life, or at least it's not adding years to your life. Why would you not want to go to the extent to use and utilize the supplements that are going to help you not only be a healthy bodybuilder, because I think like a good bodybuilder is a healthy bodybuilder, but it's also gonna help you when you exit the sport, because like this isn't a forever thing, and hopefully people want to live after the sport, and they don't just want to like get out of bodybuilding and like die. So it's like just look into the supplements, and especially I think people need to look into the supplements that they need, like specifically. I think a lot of people waste a lot of money on supplements. They'll kind of like just take stuff just because like their favorite influencer put it on their page and they have a code to it or whatever. It's like look at your blood work and then kind of like match what you take to what you actually need. And that would save a lot of people a lot of money, because like before I would take a lot of like supplement, like you see like a Raw and Revive does like good, they do good work, they have really good blends, but like I would take a bunch of blends of like their heart blend, kidney blend, this blend. It's like that, those are good things, but they're not cheap, you know what I mean? So you could probably just like look through those blends, see what you could use based off your blood work, and save a lot of money. But I do think that guys should look into more of like the supplement route and just be more on top of that than worrying about like their perfect cycle or whatever.
a perfect cycle is going to have all the other ancillaries and supplements in
Yeah,
there to
exactly,
make sure you're getting the most out of it.
exactly. That's
To
a good
me, it's
point.
one of those things. It's like if you're gonna dip your foot into this, longevity is the biggest thing.
Hmm.
I mean, you've heard that. I'm not. Everyone's heard. A lot of people have heard the phrase. It's like bodybuilding is a marathon, not a sprint.
Right.
It's like, who can do this the longest, who can, stay healthy the longest. That's why I always worry about some of these like young kids that are like 20, 21 that are like juiced to the gills. They're putting
Very
on
yeah.
60, 70 pounds in a year. And then it's like, they're not, maybe their mind hasn't matured properly, or they're not getting the proper coaching or insight where it's like, hey, get your blood work done. Hey, like you're fine now, but make sure you take X,
Look at
Y,
the
Z.
big picture. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
how are you're not going to be able to do this for as long as you need to it takes to get to wherever you want to go. You may get the let's say you do get the pro card in 2 years, but it's like but your health is like in the gutter. So it's like
Yeah.
what do you do with that? Like I've heard it mentioned before. It's like you got the pro card, now it's like what are you going to do with it?
It's
What are you
like
going to do with it if
it's
your
like
health
you
is
get a
shit?
high end sports car, right? And it's like
Hmm.
You just drive the thing. You never get the oil changed. You never rotate the tires. You never get the brakes done. You never change the spark plugs. You never get a tune up. You never check the diagnostics when an engine light comes on. You know what I mean? It's like that's a good, in my way. It's like a good, the car's gonna run well at first, but then it's gonna run like shit. Yeah. And that's like that's a good way, I think, analogy putting it with bodybuilding. It's like you might be running awesome at first, but if you don't take care of your shit, there might become a time where you're not.
Yeah. So when it comes to bodybuilding, what aspect of it really got you like into it? Was it the training, or what was it?
I've wanted to do this since I was 8 years old, man.
Really?
Yeah. So, I on my mom's side of my family, I had 3 uncles. They're all PhDs in physical therapy. One of them also was a CPA for a while, and they all did powerlifting. So they're always around me. They're always like, Chris, make sure you flex your muscles and everything like that. And, on my dad was a big dude. He used to lift and never competed, never took anything, but he always just lifted and was, pretty gifted genetically wise as getting big and round and whatnot. And, I'd be like 3 years old watching Predator, Commando, RoboCop, Terminator, I watched a lot of cartoons and stuff as a kid, but I watched all those rated R action movies. So that's what I saw. And I would quote it and run around and have a lot of fun. And obviously I liked comics and the big jacked up action figures that would come out. And I remember I was running errands with my dad. I was basically just forced to go with my dad on a Saturday, and stopped at some convenience store, and I think he was playing lottery numbers or something for my mom. And I was looking at a Hulk comic, and I'm like, oh, he's so cool. And then I happened to look, and I saw a Flex magazine with Dorian Yates on the cover. And I saw how big he was. I saw the veins, and I was just looking at it, going through the book, and I'm looking. I was blown away, that a human being looked like. I thought it was so cool. Mm-hmm. And my dad's like, oh, what are you looking at? I'm showing my dad pictures. I'm like, are these real people? Because you don't see anyone like that, often. And then my dad's like, oh yeah, that's a bodybuilder. That's all they do. Their job is to eat, sleep, and train. And it's a full-time job, and that's what they do. And I'm like, really? And I'm like, I'm going to be like this one day. My dad laughed. And, that was kind of I always liked looking at the magazines, but I didn't follow the sport at all or anything like that. It wasn't until I think senior year in high school, summer of junior year going into senior year of high school. That's when I actually started lifting somewhat serious. And 2.5 months, I put on 30 pounds. I took creatine for the first time, and I just got I was a whopping 150 pounds my senior year. I started at 120 pounds. And that was when, once I started doing the lifting and stuff like that, I'm like, oh, well, the internet wasn't like it is now. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'd read the magazines. I'd get them all the time. Muscular Development, Muscle Mag, Flex. And I just read all of them. And that's kind of when I got into actually following bodybuilding. Mm-hmm. And the first pro I actually ever met in my life was 2003. It was Ronnie Coleman, after he just destroyed everyone at the 2003 Olympia. And he came to a store in Boston. It was a nutrition store. I think it was called either Nutrition One or Nutrition Edge. But it was one of the supplement stores on the campus of Northeastern. And we went there, and my friends and I went there, and I got to meet him. I got a picture with him. I have it framed on my wall. I got his book autographed and signed, his Cost of Redemption DVD signed. And I never seen a person look like that to this day. I've never seen someone look like that to this day. And I would watch his video all the time. Whatever body part I was training, if it was chest day, I'd watch Ronnie Coleman training chest. If it was leg day, I'd be all right, I'm going to squat 800 pounds one day. You know what I mean? I'm I'm going to press 200-pound dumbbells or bench 500 pounds for reps one day. Here I am at 150 pounds saying all these things when I at a young age. And I was just obsessed with it for so long. And that's just, eventually I put on enough muscle where I felt like it was, I felt at the time was worthy for the stage, which it probably wasn't, but I mean, hey, you live and you learn. Yeah, right. If you wait to start at the perfect time, you're never going to start shit. So that's a good point. I'm glad I did what I did when I did. So, yeah.
Yeah. So you got into it. When was your first competition? How old were you?
My first NPC show was 2009.
2009.
So was I 24, 25?
Gotcha. And then you took like that break from competing. When was that like when was that
No,
about?
so I did OCB shows. I did a couple
Me
OCB
too.
shows in 2008. I did the NPC show 2009. I was still natural when I did that show.
Mm-hmm.
I did win the light heavyweight class, which was pretty cool.
Fire.
Then I did another natural show, my last one in 2010. Then I did a few more NPC shows, pretty regularly competed actively from 2012, 2013, 2014.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until the last show I did in 2014. That was when I took the long break. And I basically didn't come back on stage until 2022.
I got you. Yeah, that's cool.
I
That's
did
really
one. I
cool.
did
Oh, go
one
ahead, go ahead.
show. I did one show in 2018, and I had no business being on stage. I was about like 40%, like is what I could have been. Like
Yeah.
it was. I did it kind of for fun, just because I hadn't been up there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And after I got off stage, I was like, I'll never fucking do this again. Like stepping on stage like this, it pissed me off so bad. And then
Yeah.
yeah, but then I got back on stage in 2022, and I've been competing since. So.
That's awesome. I love hearing like good, genuine stories of how people have gotten into bodybuilding and like enjoy and why they still do it. You know, I think with a lot of guys getting into the sport now, it's for more, superficial things or kind of odd things instead of, the older crowd, like the people that I listen to, they're all like, I got into it because I love the training or like it was there for me when I went through a hard time, or it's like someone like you, like I was listening to a podcast earlier and so the guy was talking about like I wanted to be a bodybuilder since I was 12 years old, and like same thing with you. It's like just seeing like the genuine like the drive coming from like a cool genuine place is it's really cool. So that's awesome hearing your story. But speaking of, I kind of brought up training there. So you said that your uncles were like powerlifters.
Mhm.
So did you go into like a powerlifting like era? Because I know that you have gotten like strong as shit before. Not
There
before, but
was
you were
a
strong as
there was
shit
a,
at one point.
yeah, there was a time when I was. I want to say it was between like 2017 and 2019.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually following like an actual powerlifting program.
Okay.
No, that was actually when I put up some good numbers. That was when I squatted 800 pounds. I had a
That's what I
five
was. Yeah.
seventy 574 raw bench and a 725 pull, and I weighed about 220 when I did all those.
Damn, bro, that's
So
fucking wild.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I had I got videos like way back on my Instagram where I've seated military pressed 405 at 3 reps. I've benched 500 pounds for 3 or 4 reps and done all types of fun
Yeah.
stuff. You know,
I'm gonna let this play in the background. Hold up. This is the video I was watching before we get through. Like this is crazy. So this was in that 2017 and 2019 era. You're
I
saying?
think
I'm
this I
guessing.
think this was 2018. I want to say. I wish I went for two to be honest, because it moved. Like
Sounds like
that
Ronnie.
gym still that gym used to have a huge picture of me, in the hole with that, and yeah,
That's crazy. That is wild. I love seeing old shit like
it was
this.
it was like the most anticlimactic.
But one thing that I've mentioned, or I've talked to you in the DMs about before, and I think that's something I wanted to talk to you about, is like the psychology and mental health in bodybuilding. So I know that we've had previous conversations, and if you don't want to disclose this information, we don't got to talk about it. But
I don't care. Go
yeah,
ahead.
so like therapy and that side of it doesn't even have to be for bodybuilding, just for like men in general. Why do you think that that is such like a neglected aspect of like men's life? And just to give me your take on like that part of everything.
I don't necessarily feel like maybe it's neglected. I think maybe it's just more like mainstream now. And this might make some people upset, but this is just my opinion. I feel like people today are not as hardened or as tough or as resilient as
Without a doubt,
people were in the 80s or the 50s or 40s. You know what I mean?
without a
Like,
doubt, yeah.
I always think of something like, college campuses and stuff with mental health, and they have these safe zones, right? Where like
Hmm.
people can go and do whatever the hell it is that they do there. I think about like 18-year-old kids going off to Vietnam or fighting World War like II or something like that, and
Yeah,
what they would think about a safe zone. Like I could picture them being like, a safe zone's when we go in and kill everyone. That's when it's
yeah,
safe. You know what I mean? It's like
yeah,
they would just kind of handle their own thing, and society didn't cater to them didn't cater to weakness like that. I do think it's pretty cool that as times have gone by that, society has recognized a lot of these things as serious issues, and there's more resources and stuff out there for people.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like that is very important. But I also think, like, just having the amount of testosterone levels drop now, like compared to what they
Yeah.
were, like, I think that is going to play a huge role because low testosterone levels in males can lead to depression, can lead to anxiety, can lead to a lot of other issues. I think the
Right.
food quality is not as good as it used to be. There's all types of shit, microplastics and everything in the food, which disrupts a bunch of different metabolic processes, including lowering testosterone. I also think too that, this economy fucking sucks. And
Yeah.
back in the day where like my dad, worked his ass off, my mom was a stay-at-home mom with me. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people can't afford that anymore. So now you have a lot of kids that, are in daycare and maybe they don't get that interaction with their parents as much because both of them have to work, or they have to work closing shifts and one's working a morning shift. It's like they don't get that interaction with their family, with their mom and their dad, or
Right.
if it's two fathers or two mothers or whatever it is, like they're not getting that interaction.
Yeah.
And I think that also, and then you get the whole span of kids now. It's like the parents are tired from working so much, they don't want to discipline their kids. So it's like, yeah, just fucking play on an iPad for a while, or play.
Give him an iPad and let them
Yeah.
go, and then they're
And then
just
now you
there.
got all this blue light coming in, and you've got all these kids just watching these, like, just tons of
It's
brain
sad.
rot at a young age.
It's really sad.
And then they can't go out and play as much. They're not out outside as much as like I was as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have social media growing up. We didn't have smartphones. Like, if
Mm-hmm.
we had to send a text message, we would have to hit like the button. We'd have
You
to
have to
hit like the
click
button
the
three times to get like the letter C to pop up. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
I remember those phones. I didn't like grow up in that area, but I live in a pretty like rural area, so I was like I feel like I'm like one of the last generations that got like a little bit of that kind of parenting, especially for me because I didn't grow up I grew up without a father, so my grandpa raised me a lot, and he's 80 years old, so I kind of got his way of being brought up, and I'm so blessed for that because like
but yeah, you're
uh,
lucky, man. That's awesome.
dude, yeah. So I think like looking at the younger generation, I think a lot of the mental health issues that they think they have is like it's a lack of purpose and a lack of standard. I think when you allow yourself to live such like I'm gonna say like a reject life, but that is where a bunch of depression for guys I think stems from, whether it be like lack of purpose or just lack of or it's just the fact that they like wake up, go to a job they hate, or go to school or they're going to college because their parents made them, and then they come home, they play video games, they beat their meat, and they go to sleep. It's like no wonder you're depressed. Like I wouldn't second guess you're depressed.
Yeah, then you have some unfortunate individuals that end up going to the doctors and they get prescribed all types of antidepressants or SSRIs
And they're screwed.
that can cause even more issues down the road.
Hmm.
People on Wellbutrin like that, I think that's a fucking nasty drug. I think it's terrible, and I think it causes more harm than good. And you get these kids putting on meds, and then it's not like a lot of the doctors are really trying to figure out root causes. They're just trying to slap
They
band-aids on shit
they
and
don't care.
go out the
Yeah.
door. They don't, not as much. And I think if society was like it was 30, 40 years ago or whatever, I do think that we probably wouldn't see as many of these mental health issues just because like people weren't as stressed. They had a more expendable income. They got to be around family, like family dinner, family time, like all that stuff. And obviously that
Hmm.
still happens now, but there's just a lot of people that are struggling. Then you got divorce rates that are super high. I mean, that is clinically shown to have impact on kids. You got a single mother that's trying to raise, a boy or a couple boys. It's like they're not getting that father figure in their life. So they're not getting any of that tough love that you would get from like a dad. You're getting all that feminine energy. And then you've got women that are being raised by single dads or whatever that, the women are like very masculine because that's like what their fathers raised them. They're not. I mean, there's things that women and mothers do way better than fathers and male,
Yeah.
men. And then there's
Vice
other
versa.
things
Yeah.
that men do better than females.
Yeah.
One's not better than the other, but they complement each other. And,
Mhm.
I think that society's really missing that. And you have a lot of kids that don't have direction. And, then you add,
That's it. That is it.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's no direction. And without direction, maybe they don't have purpose. And then, maybe they're not held accountable for all their fuck ups. Like if I fucked around, like I got a backhand or I got a straight up fist, and I
Yeah.
have a great relationship with my dad. I love the guy to death. He's a real man, like an awesome, awesome father and an awesome dad. And I was very fortunate to have that growing up. But I mean, I even saw back then kids that whose parents get divorced and like their mental health would deteriorate.
Yeah.
Even when I was in high school and everything. And it's really sad. It is rough out there. But I mean, I do think that I just wish people could hold themselves accountable and not play victim all the time. Society has made it very easy now to play victim and get away with
And
it.
like cater to them and be like, oh, it's okay, it's
Yeah.
all right. Where it's like, no, maybe you messed up, maybe you fucked up.
Even when
Yeah.
even when I used to work at like Dollar Tree, I used to be a district manager for Dollar Tree, which was hilarious. And I had like 1,300 employees underneath me and 20 something
I
stores. It's
remember you
like,
mentioning that. Yeah.
yeah, and like there'd be people coming in and be like, oh, like trying to get doctor's notes for mental health leaves. Some of them
Jeez.
really
Yeah.
needed it, but there's some that are just trying to exploit the system. Like, dude, like just go to your fucking job and work. Like,
Dude, that's
just have some discipline, have some direction, have some goddamn self pride in what you do. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
granted, I wasn't the best worker when I was 16 years old. I used to work at Brooks fucking Pharmacy, which is now Rite Aid or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah.
And I'd be like stuck like rearranging the warehouse and like mopping floors. Like I still like that was still a reflection of me. I washed them fucking floors the best that I could.
Exactly, because how you do anything is how you're going to do everything. I think that a
It's a good
perspective
quote.
that guys got to have, or just people got to have, is like you should, with your job, like just be the best custodian you can be the best fucking busboy you can be. That's what I told myself. My first job was I worked at a Mexican restaurant. I was like, I hate it here. I've talked about it on here before. Like I was in prep, like at a Mexican restaurant, so I hated my life. But it's like any job you get, you should just carry that like want to be the best. And people think that this is a dumb job. Like I don't have to work my hardest, but it's like it just bleeds over in everything. Like we kind of mentioned and talked about before. Like when I'm working at Walmart and everyone's just like late or they just don't show up for like days on end, I'm like, how are you okay with like doing this? Like you don't have, like, if I'm late for work, I'm pissed for I'm mad at myself like a week. And I think that where that comes from and where it stems from, obviously being raised correctly and not being raised by like a parent that's just going to be like, I'm tired from work, here's my phone, leave me alone. But I think where I've developed that, and people can develop that, or guys or whatever, is like from bodybuilding. You know what I mean? Because like bodybuilding, the whole sport is the whole everything is accountability. It's like it's all in your hands, and that's what I find like the beauty in bodybuilding is. It's like it's all the result. I mean, the result of the show, maybe not so much, but like the result of your physique and how much muscle you're able to put on, fat you're able to lose, etc., is all like a direct result of like what you're doing and being accountable to your training, your diet, or whatever. And that just is able to bleed over in literally every single avenue of your life.
Do you want to know why I like bodybuilding so much and I love it? Is because it really has made me a much better person. And it sounds corny, but like, let me explain, right? I was very fortunate to be gifted with a lot of things. Like, I didn't have, like, when I was in school and I was in AP and honors classes, like, I did not have to try to do well, right? And then like there was one time where like I went down to like a college prep level course, which was college prep classes was like one level.
You can keep talking. I'm gonna shut my vent. I'm freezing cold.
No, that's fine. Yeah. So like college prep level courses, they were like one step below the honors class. They weren't as strict or as, I guess
Yeah.
competitive. And I
Yeah.
remember I took one of those classes and I actually did worse in it. So I've always described myself as electricity, where I like to take the path of least resistance.
Mhm.
So like if I have an easier option, I will definitely take the easier option. So I purposely try to put myself in situations where I'm like under pressure and forced to work really hard.
Gotcha.
And, even with college came easy for me. Even powerlifting, like when I did that, like I probably could have been a world record holder or a top, like elite level powerlifter. I just
Mm,
didn't love it like that. Bodybuilding has been like the one thing that has been so challenging for me and it's been difficult over the years that I feel like that's why I still do it, because of the fact that it's not easy for me. It's not
okay.
easy really for anyone, but it is just I just truly realize it is not easy for me at all. And I have to be on the ball with everything. And
Mm,
that is carried over into everything else in my life, with
yeah.
my job, with everything. I just gotta, my big thing is I just need to remember to tell myself at times to like actually slow down
Yeah.
and take those times to relax, because I'll put so much ungodly amount of pressure on myself with everything. And when
That's
we
a
were
blessing and
talking,
a curse. That's a blessing and a curse, like the pressure on yourself to hold the standard, to whatever you want to do. Like that pressure on yourself it's really good. It could be like deliberating for some people, but I think I would much rather, like I've told myself this before, like I recently got like two more jobs or whatever just to have stuff to do because I put like that same pressure on myself. But it's like I would much rather be on this end of the spectrum, like thinking like that, than the complete opposite. Than to be like, oh, I'm just good. I'm just gonna, mosey on my life and not do shit with my life. I would much rather be. Obviously, there's probably a happy middle, but it's like I think I would much rather be on that other end.
yeah, I mean, obviously there's times in my life I'm like, I just wish this was easier. Not with bodybuilding, just anything. But then it's just like, you know
Hmm.
what? Like I have enough skill set and mental fortitude to handle it. So I'm just gonna go with
Lean
it.
into it.
You know what I
Lean
mean?
into it. Yeah.
I mean, when we first started talking a little while ago, I think I was telling you I started going to therapy for a period of time,
Yeah.
because like I still struggle with it a little bit, but not as much anymore because I've been working on myself. But I just have a difficult time just being happy and like appreciative of what I have, because it's like once I achieve a goal or I
What's
achieve
next?
something, it's like I want more.
Yep.
And what can I do next? And I never really sit down to actually just kind of stop and slow down and take a break and just be like, you know what, life's good. It's always like I need more, or what else can I do to improve? And
Right.
it became a little bit of an issue for a short period of time where I felt like I was incapable of feeling happiness or joy, and that's a real fucking problem for me.
Yeah.
But after talking with the therapist and everything like that, it was like I had a weird definition of what purpose was. Like I always like, oh, I don't know what my purpose is, but
Yeah.
I was equating like purpose to like an end point, where purpose is just kind of like how you just live your life.
It just is you.
It
Yeah.
just
Okay.
is me. Yeah. And like the
Yeah.
therapist was actually kind of the one that brought to me. He's like, well, it's not just like some end point. It's everything that goes on in there. And I'm like, okay. And that kind of made sense. And I actually was journaling for quite some time. That was one of the things that the therapist actually recommended me doing. So I'd always put these keywords and I would journal every day for like 15, 20 minutes uninterrupted. It helped actually a lot.
Yeah. I love
I like
that.
handwriting stuff. I still use notebooks for work. I don't
Hmm.
type notes on my phone or the computer. I
Yeah.
write everything down. I retain information better that way. I'm kind of old school, pen to paper type of
I
guy.
love that. Yeah. Me too.
Yeah, and that's that really has helped a lot. And
Hmm.
that maybe that actually helped with this prep as well, where I'm kind of just like I'm putting in the work. The end result will come one day. As opposed to being like, no, I want to be bigger now, leaner now. I want to refeed
Hmm.
now. Or I want to be on no carbs now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just kind
I
of
love that.
go with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you hit on so many good points there on the purpose thing, on the weight, like not wanting everything now thing. That's one thing I suggest people do as well. And if you don't want to like sit down and write or whatever for 10 to 15 minutes, which I think is kind of a shitty excuse because it's like 10 minutes. I do think that physically like getting out your feelings is really good, especially for guys, because like guys have the tendency to just bottle shit up, never talk about it, and never let their feelings express. And I'm not saying to be the person to go put it on your Instagram and put it out for the world, because no one gives a fuck at the end of the day. But if you do need, or when you do need to get that out, like what I do, actually I probably have like 150 of these on my phone, but like like the voice memos app.
Hmm.
if I have like a fucked up thought, or I just need to like express my feelings or whatever, I'll just open my memos and just speak and talk and talk and talk, and
Dude,
then
that's awesome.
it's you get it out, and then it's out into the universe, and you can just let it go, and then you let that thought pass, you let it go, and you feel much better. If Because I know some people just will not like sit down and like write, and I have really shitty handwriting, and I would like to actually be able to like understand what I'm thinking, and be able to read it.
Yeah,
So I
I
just put
get
it in
it.
my I just talked in my phone. And then another aspect I kind of give guys too is like it's gonna be really cool one day when, like, let's just say you're going through a really shitty period of your life and you need to do a lot of these voice memos or whatever to, like, help with your mental health. You're gonna look, you could probably play these back in a couple of years and be like, dude, I have grown so fucking much. And you can do the same thing with, like, looking back in your logbook or like your journal.
Hmm.
It's really
No,
cool.
it definitely helps. And here's another weird thing that I do, and this is probably you're actually the first person I think I've ever actually publicly told this to. Every New Year's Eve, I will write down like all the negative thoughts that were reoccurring throughout the year, and I would write them on a piece of paper and I'd fucking burn it.
Leave them in the air. I like
And
that.
I'm
I
like, I
love
ain't
that.
carrying this fucking shit over the new year. And
I
then like I'll
love
find
that.
more shit to complain about the next year. But you know what I mean. I think that helps. I don't know
Yeah.
why I think it helps, but it's just kind of like a closure thing. Like fuck these words, fuck these thoughts, and we're gonna burn them.
Yeah, you gotta leave things in the past like that. Especially I try and do that every night, like my little wind down. Like I'll lay down, like I'll pray or whatever, but then I'll just think about all like any negative thoughts I've had for the day. I'm like, all right, I'm done with it. I'm leaving it tomorrow. Maybe if it reoccurs in my head and I think about it again, cool. But like right now, I'm just gonna tell myself I'm gonna try to leave it in the previous day. If there's nothing I can do about it right now, there's nothing I can do about it tomorrow. I'm not gonna worry about it. But I think there's so many gems people could take away from that. Just like not just working on your mental health, like obviously working on it just from like a general human standpoint, but just like for it to better like your bodybuilding process. I think that the more clear minded and like more thankful of the process you can be and just present, the better bodybuilder you can be. And I think that's just something that's helped me. And like my coach Tom Schuster, you may know him. He
I know who he is.
Yeah, he's helped me a lot on like the mental health, like the not mental health, but like the mentality aspect around bodybuilding.
Hmm.
And I think that's paramount. I don't care how much you want the physical physique, or how much you want the likes. If like your mental is a wreck and you like hate doing this, or you hate your life in general, and you're like an anxiety ridden mess because all the processes of bodybuilding to stress you out, I think you're cooked. I think you're kind of cooked.
Yeah, there were times where bodybuilding would stress me out. Usually in prep is where I would stress out the most, and then a lot of other things. And when I was 21, I got diagnosed with depression, and I haven't really had any issues with that for the most part since then. But it's interesting because they say like depression is you're kind of caught in the past. So you're always thinking too much of the past. So it's like that's what caused depression. And because this is exactly what I did for a really long time, I would be, pretty depressed because I'd be thinking about past mistakes or thinking about stuff in the past. But then what would go on is then I would fuck myself up in the current because I'd be like kind of hesitant to make decisions because then I'd get anxiety, which is fear of the future, fear
Future,
of not
yeah,
knowing. So I was
yeah.
getting it at both ends. So then, like, the one thing that I just had a hard time dealing with was actually just living in the present. And I remember one situation where I turned 30, and for some reason, like when I turned 30, that like hit me really hard because I was like, when I was like 20 or 21, 22, I'm like, all right, when I'm 30, I'm going to have this, 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 and this. And then when I turned 30, I didn't have jack shit. And I started to feel like a fucking loser and all that stuff. And I was playing the whole poor me pity party for myself. And then there was just one day I remember I woke up and I was like, I just was staring at myself in the mirror. And I'm like, you know what, man? I'm like, you're here right now because this is exactly where you're supposed to be. And, yeah, you said you wanted this, this, and this, but you didn't put a plan in and you didn't work for it. Like you can say you want something, but unless you're actually putting in a plan or striving towards something, not like it just like fucking magically happens.
Hmm.
And so when I remember when I did that, I was like, all right, you know what? I forgive myself for all these fuck ups and I'm taking full accountability and just never again. And
Hmm.
that was a pretty good turning point for me because one, it was like forgiving myself for anything that I ever screwed up on was always hard. Like I always hold it over my own head.
Hmm.
And also two, just taking that accountability for myself really, really helped.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when like my mindset really kind of shifted. And that was when I was getting like super ambitious and super this and wanted all of this stuff because it's like I never wanted to feel that way again,
Yeah.
which leads me to the point from last year and a few months ago where it was like, okay, I want all this stuff, but now I'm not enjoying the moment
Yeah.
that I
It's like a
have. So
feedback.
it's like, for every solution you make sometimes like it creates another issue that you just gotta man up and tackle, and,
Yeah.
and get it done.
Yeah, guys find themselves in that loop of like thinking in the past and then they bring themselves back to the future or the present and then they get stressed about the future and then they never make and then what that usually leads to is like just fucking off and like playing on their phone or some shit and then just never make any action and then they're
Yeah.
thinking
Yeah.
about the past again. But it's just when you that's something I got from that book over here called Inner Excellence was like you can't have like true resonance in your life and true like meaning if you're just thinking about what you could have done and what you should have done or what you may do or what you could do. And it's like you have no control, kind of coming back full circle to what I brought up earlier is like what is in like your circle of controllables or whatever. And it's just guys will find themselves I've done the same thing. And I think you made a really good point there as well of being able to like forgive yourself. I think that's like one of the first steps of being able to like move on from something or
Hmm.
like forgiving others as well, even if they, fucked you over really bad or whatever. It's like they could have done the most horrible things for you, but if you don't just like accept it and you don't have to like think it's right or whatever, but like just accept it happened, forgive them and move on, you're going to be stuck forever. And then that just it's just a cascade of events that comes from that. But everyone fucks up. You just got to give them
I mean,
there, whatever.
I just, maybe beginning of June, I actually ended a 13-year friendship with a person, and I forgive them for it now, but I'll never be friends with that person ever again, and I've just kind of, moved on from it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit there and let it. I'm not going to let it. Impact my day to day. It was just one of
Hmm.
those things. It's like, okay, like, you know what? This is what was said. This is what was done, and I want no part of it. And that's
Hmm.
it. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Because I've gotten to the point now where I like to protect my own peace, sanity, and my own energy.
That's
Where
beautiful. That is
in the
beautiful.
past, like I love really hard my wife, my friends. I go above and beyond for everyone that I can, and I've
Hmm.
gotten to the point in the past where I've spread myself so thin and given so much of my own energy that I've got none for myself. So now it's one of those things in my life where it's like I have my family, I have my wife, and I have a couple of really, really close friends, a couple of other really good, friends. And that's kind of like who I try to protect that energy with all them,
Hmm.
especially
I love that.
myself.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
that's another aspect that's made my life a lot better.
Mm. You have to, I think, having one to two to like three, I don't know like what number it is for you, but like a very close knit group of friends that you're able to really truly pour into instead of having like, a friend group or whatever that it's like
Mhm.
the love and the affection for each one of those people becomes like diluted almost to where if you just kind
Yeah,
of like
it does.
protect your peace and like just keep it very close. Like for me, mean, for to be honest, for me, it's just me and my grandpa is like who only the only person I really talk to besides my coach. And but I guess you could consider like I talk with like God each day, so that could be like a connection or whatever. But like as far as like physical people, like
Well,
people on
that's
Earth,
huge though. That part is honestly very important.
yeah, I think that people think like you need a bunch of like connections and friends and you need to go out and talk to, a lot of people and experience things. But like, I think people would be surprised on how little they actually need to be like fulfilled. You know what I mean? I think that an issue that I see with a lot of people in in any industry in any life or any whatever is like their dopamine and their happiness ceiling is so high because they're always stimulated by something, they're always driving up like what has to make them happy. And then it's the same thing with like caffeine, the more
Hmm.
caffeine you drink, the more you have to like drink to get that same effect. And it's the same thing with happiness. If you're always on your phone or always buying shit and you're always going on big vacations, it's like it's going to take a big boom to make you happy. When it's like if you just appreciated being in the process of you could use what's helped me a lot is like finding joy in like the wins you get in like a day of bodybuilding, right? So like bodybuilding is like a 24-hour sport endeavor or whatever. It's like if you're able to like reprogram your brain to like find joy in like, all right, I woke up on time, I did my cardio, I did my shots, I took my supplements, like whatever. You're able to like accumulate all these little wins, and it kind of like not lowers, but it kind of like your threshold for crossing that dopamine, you're crossing that dopamine threshold is like very little. It takes very little to make you happy, you know?
Well, yeah, well, it makes you appreciate the simple things in life too. There was a
Yeah.
time for a while where I would wake up every morning and I would say 5 things I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
And
I love
then,
that.
I was doing this for a little bit towards the end of the day where I would say like I'd try to say like all the wins that I had for the day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, got all my meals in, win. Like
Dub.
well,
Yeah.
close new accounts at work, win.
Mm-hmm.
Remember to do the goddamn laundry so my wife didn't get pissed off. Like win, like got to play with my animals.
Yeah.
Like win, like hit a PR today, hit a rep PR, like got a high day, like hit a new
Yeah.
low. All those little things. They don't seem like much, but I never used to be the person that really focused on the little things. I didn't think they mattered as much. They matter so much more than the big things, because when you appreciate all those little things in life, when you do get those big wins, it just makes you appreciate the big wins even more.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're just a naturally happier person because you've been appreciating all the small stuff.
Yeah. That's such a good point. It's like you get all these little wins. I'm not saying you have to like get all amped up and super happy and celebrate every little win you get, but just like a little bit of like that, like fulfilled feeling for a couple seconds just throughout your days. And, I think that kind of connects back to a point you made earlier about you're not being able to be like never be happy. You couldn't be thankful or happy in the moment. And I think that's a good reframe a lot of guys, or a good perspective a lot of guys could benefit from. And I've had to work with this myself, is just being able to be happy with where you are, because it's like there's probably aspects of your life, there are aspects in all of our lives, I'm sure, that the position we're in is somewhere like a past version of us would have like dreamed of being in,
Yeah,
be it
or even just
physically or
like
mentally or anything.
even other people that are struggling,
Yeah.
it's like they would probably kill to,
Hmm.
to be able to do that type of sort of thing.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
just like we look at people like, oh, like, I'd like to have a physique like, Phil Heath or whatever. And it's like,
Hmm.
damn. But then there's someone that's like, you walking through Walmart to do my food shopping, and someone's like, oh man, like I wish I looked like that guy. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's all perspective.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Just how it's all
Yeah,
perspective
you
at
just
the end
gotta
of the
you
day.
just gotta learn how to like kind of, I guess, rationalize it in your own brain where it makes sense and you can kind of see it.
Yeah,
I mean, like
that
I
makes
was
sense.
doing dishes. I was doing dishes a little bit before I hopped on here, and I put a new like pad on the Scrub Daddy,
Hmm. Yeah,
like a fresh new like sponge. You know how
yeah.
excited I was to put that on? I'm like, I gotta replace this thing, and I like tore it off and threw it away. And then I'm like looking underneath, I'm like, please tell me I have. And like, I could have sworn I bought more. And I'm like, I got 4 of them. Then I like opened up the pack and I put it on. And I was like, yeah, like I
Yeah,
was excited. I
dude,
get
I'm such
excited
a
every morning when I wake up, and like my cats are happy to see me, and I get to make fresh coffee every morning. Like that right
yeah.
there is awesome.
Yeah, it's the little things. I'm such a nerd for cooking supplies. Like whenever I get my own place, that's what I'm gonna nerd out about so much. Like cooking. Like I used to watch like your thing was like comic books and like all like those like cartoons and shit. Mine was cooking shows. I was a big cooking show fan when I was younger. I don't know why. So all that shit like really interests me. I don't know why. I've always been like a fan of cooking and whatnot. And in bodybuilding, food is like fucking 90% of it. So thankfully I like to cook. But kind of getting off of some more like deep mental health talks, what have been some of your thoughts on the recent showings in bodybuilding?
I mean, I'm really happy for James,
Dude,
winning
yeah.
that show.
Yes.
He just seems to be just getting better and better as each show. Like the last one that he was at, what was that? Was that Atlanta?
China or Atlanta, yeah, Atlanta.
Yeah, the one where he won. Like, dude, he looked hard as nails, man. Like that was awesome. You know, it's been a pretty cool year for bodybuilding because you just get you got these local shows, or not local shows, but you got these like other pro shows that there were times in the past where like some of these would have like, nobody really crazy in them. Like now all these shows have like crazy deep lineups.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've got multiple Olympians in like the top 5 at all these other shows, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
It's really interesting. Yeah, it's like every I can't think of many shows this year that weren't like pretty like had like a couple, at least one like Olympia contender there. Like they've all
Yeah.
been pretty stacked. So it's really cool to see. I'm actually going to my first pro show this weekend. I'm going. My dad came out of nowhere and bought tickets to Texas Pro.
Oh, that's
So
such a good show. The Texas show,
dude,
man,
yeah,
you picked a good show to go to. The Texas shows are so friggin' good. They have a pretty
yeah,
big expo in there. Like I know,
and
like
it's the
last,
last U.S. qualifying show.
yeah,
So
yep.
we'll have so I know that Joe said he's putting it in for the year, which is kind of sad to see. I don't know what the reasoning for that is. I don't know if him and Justin just like don't know what's going on, but I did see that he said he's not gonna he's hanging it up for the year.
I mean, to be completely fair, like considering everyone that's going to be doing Texas, like I just don't think Joe has a shot of winning.
Yeah, that's a good
And like
point.
you know, he's fucking massive. I just think like his waist really hurts him.
Hmm.
And I think like, you know, he's put on a shitload of size. I think what Joe needs now is like refinement.
Maturity, yeah, that's what
You
I thought
know,
too. Because
yeah, and
this
I
is
think
all still new muscle. You know what I mean?
exactly. And you know, when you get all that, when you put on weight that fast, you know, usually the waistline takes a hit. Usually, maybe you don't come in as super sharp or crisp or refined as others do. You know,
Hmm.
Joe's massive, but I think he just needs to, you know, really get some refinement, and I think he'll be in the mix. I mean, I certainly think he has the potential to win a pro show for sure. I thought
Yeah,
Patrick Moore looked really good here.
me too.
Uh,
Yeah,
that was one of my favorite ones. Charles Griffin looks fucking nasty. It was just great to see him
dude, his
come
shape
back to the
is
stage.
crazy.
He get crazy shape, you know, and he's always hyped as fuck. Great energy on stage, you know.
Yeah, I really like his. I remember seeing a picture of him. I guess it was like when he was in his little hiatus. It was just like a random video, and I'm like, dude, who is this guy? And then I kind of followed him, and then I didn't really know he like was a. I guess I saw him when I wasn't into bodybuilding, so I didn't know he was like
Yep.
retired or whatever. And then he came back out of nowhere. I'm like, and Patrick Moore too. They both have like more shapely physiques, and that's kind of like I do
Yeah.
kind of enjoy like the more shapely physiques and like in general. So he looked Patrick did look really good, but I did
And usually Patrick's legs kind of like you know are okay in the front. They usually more of a glaring weakness in the back. But I you know whatever they did definitely changed that look quite a bit. And that was a good Patrick Moore.
so this was the lineup. So of these people, I guess we would expect pretty much everyone that didn't win to go to Texas except for Joe, right?
Yeah.
And is there any
Hmm.
like there's no one else jumping into Texas that wasn't at this show, right?
I can't think if there's any pros that haven't done anything yet that are doing Texas. I know. I believe Colossal Ken. I think Ken's
Yeah,
doing Texas. I
yeah,
think he just.
he
I think he
skipped
was.
that one, yeah.
He was going to do a couple of these other shows, but I think he took some time off to just kind of probably push it because you know, Ken's like right there. He just needs to be really sharp and crisp, and he's going to do really well.
Yeah.
I would love to see him pull out a W. That time's coming for him sooner than later for sure.
Yeah, everyone that I like listen to, they're always like, if he just nails it, he could beat anybody. Like, he's right there, and it's just, I don't know if it's
He's
a
got a crazy physique, and you know the crazy thing is him and I are the same height, and he like I feel so fucking small around that guy.
God. Look at his arm is the size of his head.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, what I like about Ken, like outside of his physique, is like, who he is as a person. Like
He's an awesome person, dude.
all the podcasts he's been on, he's like very like professional. He's like well spoken. He's very like he's funny. He gets a joke. Like whenever they had him and Joe both on the Fuas podcast, they're just shooting the shit. It's nothing. It's no hard feelings. He's like and he's very professional. He kind of reminds me him and Carlos Thomas Jr. kind of remind me a lot alike. They're both very like professional, and they're both
Yeah,
like
Carlos is well spoken too. He's a
yeah.
really nice guy as
Yeah,
well.
I'll be excited to see him when he gets back on stage.
Yeah, yeah. He's not
Yeah,
rushing. He's got other things, other life goals that he's focusing on.
yeah. I know he's I can't remember like what job he has, but it's like super like
Yeah, he's got
super
like a big boy job.
yeah. So
Hmm.
I guess of these people, I don't really know who I have taken Texas this weekend. Probably we got Reed,
Is James doing Texas again?
James Hollingshead.
Holland said.
I think he's probably going to hang it up if I were to guess. I don't know though.
Yeah. I mean, shit, if Joe and James aren't doing it, man, like, you know.
I wanted to see Lewis Breed in person, but I don't know why he only is doing Atlanta. I heard him talking. He's only doing Atlanta while he's in the States, and then he's going to do Austria, which is next, or I don't know when Austria is. But that's the last qualifying show. So that kind of made me sad because I wanted to see Lewis Breed in person. That was going to make me.
Yeah, he's a freak, man. I've never seen him in person, but man, he looks pretty gnarly. I mean, he's
Yeah, he's
probably,
a
you
big
know,
fella.
he's probably going to be a front runner at the Austria show.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, maybe from like a strategic point, it makes sense for him to do that, especially if he's going to Texas and then like Reagan's doing it, which he couldn't beat, you know.
That makes sense.
So, yeah, so that's it. That'll be a good show. But I mean,
Yeah.
without whether if James isn't doing that, if Joe's not doing that, that'll be a pretty good show to I guess shakes things up because now it's kind of like, you know, those two people that could be winners, you know, or at least in the top three, you know, Joe and James, like they're not going to be there anymore. So I don't. I'm curious if Patrick Moore's doing that show. I don't know if he is or not. You know, I think Ken's doing that, so that'll be good for him. I think Reagan's doing Texas. So
I'd love to see Regan. I mean, not Regan. I'd love to see Ken take Texas, just because that's also like his home. His home.
But yeah,
He trains out of. I don't know if he trains out of just Destination, but he trains in that area or whatever. So
yeah,
that'd be
I've
really,
seen him at Destination quite a few times, and I think
yeah, me too.
it's like I think that's the primary gym he goes to. I think he goes to a couple of other like ones around him if he doesn't have the time. But yeah,
Yeah, for sure. All right, brother. I don't know how long that first recording was, but we're coming up on like probably hour and a half ish area. So
Mhm.
I always end the podcast with two questions. I know we've kind of already spent the majority of this podcast in like more the mental side of things, and these two questions are kind of in that same topic. But the first one is, how do you want to be remembered when you're gone, as a person and as a bodybuilder?
you know, it's a weird question. Are you talking about just in bodybuilding?
In bodybuilding and just as like an
I mean,
everyday
I'm
person.
sure when I'm gone and if I'm talked about, they're gonna be like, dude, this guy was just stupid fucking strong and just trained super intense. So, like, that's kind of cool. I
Yeah,
left my mark there. You know, I hope I turn pro,
you will.
and you know, I could at least be remembered as like a you know a halfway decent pro.
Hmm.
I think I'd much rather be remembered as like an overall just good person, loving husband, you know, maybe a goofball. But I mean, to be honest, man, I think when I'm old and I'm dead, I'm gonna be dead. I don't give a fuck at that point. Like, I just know, you know, there's really nothing for me to give there. I'm dead.
Right, yeah.
You know. But at least, like you know, at least like from what I've made a mark on the sport already now is like obviously I work really hard. I'm somewhat intelligent. I have a good, you know, good head on my shoulders. I seem to be, you know, fairly appreciated by a bunch of different people and known for being the strong person there. You know, I'm
You
on.
check all those boxes for sure from my
Yeah, I mean, I'm
perspective.
definitely happy with that, and just want to keep improving on that. I'll never be something that I'm not, or try to be fake or anything of that stuff. It's just not in my nature.
Yeah.
So
You give off all those vibes and all those characteristics that you're saying you hope you leave behind. So I think you're doing a good job on that front, man. I think you're one of the more genuine people I see in the space, and you do have a good head on your shoulders, and you're very like intelligent with what you say and like reasonable and all that kind of shit. So I really do appreciate like someone like you to look up to within the space. So the second
appreciate
question,
that.
yeah, for sure. The second question that I have that will wrap up the podcast is, what drives you the most, you think, in your day-to-day process?
I don't want to have any regrets when I'm older.
I love that.
I don't want to be on my you know I don't want to be old and feeble or sick and then you know on my way out and just being like I wish I did this, I wish I did that. That is probably like my biggest fear is just like failing at shit. And it's more so failure it's failure to act and not do something. I have no problem trying something and failing because I've failed at more things in my life than I've been successful at. It just
We
makes
all
me
will.
appreciate the wins and the success a little more.
Hmm.
But I just don't want to look back on my life and being like, I
What
wish I could
if?
go back in time and fix this shit.
What if? Yeah, that's
Yeah, I don't want that.
I've had that answer a few times, and that's what drives me in my day to day process. Not only I love like my pursuit of whatever, and I just love like what I do in my day to day, but it's like I will not get to my fucking deathbed and be like, what if I had tried this? What if I had made that move? What if I had went all in on my what I wanted to do? It's like that is happened to people, and that is a possibility. You know, there is a lot of
I've
people.
I've seen it many times working in the hospital, man.
That's
It was
crazy. Like there's a lot of people in there. I live by a graveyard. There's a lot of people in that graveyard that probably regret a lot of shit they didn't do or did do or whatever. But it's like I will not get to my grave and or on my deathbed and be like, what if I could have done this? So that's a I love that perspective and I love that message there, man. But hey, I really appreciate you coming on today, dude. This was fucking awesome.
Thanks for having me, man. Anytime.
Yeah, for sure. Where can people find you at?
Chris Pantano Squats is my Instagram tag. If you need to email me for anything, I do coach Chris Pantano Squats at Gmail. I have a separate email for coaching, but I usually direct people over to that afterwards because I try not to clutter my inbox with that type of thing. I mean, I am on Facebook. You can just look my name up on Facebook. I'm not really on there too much because everyone talks too much about bullshit and politics and crap on that. I just don't want to see it.
Dude,
But
speaking of Facebook, not to interrupt you, but I got on Facebook a few days ago for the first time in forever, and they actually have a dating section on Facebook now, like Facebook dating. Like I was like, why is there a heart at the bottom of the screen? So it's like Tinder, but it's like Tinder, but like Facebook. So that's
Jesus.
yeah, I can't imagine the like the cesspool that is. But yeah, man, I we can that's a topic for a different day, I guess. Y'all can talk about that some other time. But yeah, brother, I appreciate you coming on today, man. And I will have this up here in the next week or two, and then I'll shoot you the link when it's up. But I appreciate you coming on, and until next time, we are out.
All right. Take care, man. Thank you.